and welcome back to English for Specific Purposes, Level B1. We are your hosts. I am Mr. Daryl.
And I'm Ms. Tatia.
And today we are going to talk about a brand new topic, psychology.
გამარჯობათ, მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი დერილია. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. ჩვენ ვისაუბრეთ ბევრ საინტერესო საკითხზე, როგორც გახსოვთ, ვისაუბრეთ ბიზნესზე, ტურიზმზე, დღევანდელი თემა კი არის ფსიქოლოგია. მაგრამ ვიდრე უშუალოდ გაკვეთილზე გადავიდოდეთ, მოდი შევხედოთ ჩვენი გაკვეთილის გეგმას.
We are going to introduce you to our topic, which is charisma in particular. And we have vocabulary selected for you. We have a reading text that we're going to look at later. We have grammar as well, as always. And we will summarize at the end with a quick summary and give you some homework.
გაკვეთილს მცირე შესავლით დავიწყებთ. შემდეგ შევისწავლით ახალ სიტყვებს. შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს, ამას მოყვება გრამატიკა, შემდეგ შევაჯამებთ და დავასრულებთ ყველასათვის საყვარელი საშინაო დავალებით. Okay, let's get started. So before we learn some new words, we have to discuss some topics, right? So Mr. Daryl, what do we call a person who has the natural ability to influence others and attract attention to themselves? What do you think we should call this kind of person?
Yeah, there's a lot of adjectives, but so it wouldn't be someone who is pessimistic or dull. It has to be someone who is charismatic.
Yes, you're absolutely right. This is called charismatic. So we call people who have natural ability to influence others and attract attention charismatic. And today we're going to talk about charismatic people. So let's get started and let's see our first set of vocabulary. And the first word we have is persuasive. Persuasive is an adjective, and in Georgian it means დამაჯერებელი, დამარწმუნებელი. Can you help me with the definition, Mr. Daryl?
I'd love to. Persuasive is when you are able to convince someone else to do something or even to believe in something that you want them to.
By the way, I have come across a lot of people who are persuasive and who can influence others.
That's a good skill in business, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So persuasive is an adjective, and in Georgian it is დამაჯერებელი, დამარწმუნებელი. Persuasive, დამაჯერებელი, დამარწმუნებელი. This together?
Persuasive.
And our next word is eloquent. Eloquent is an adjective, and in Georgian it means ჭერმეტყველი. Can you help me with the definition?
Sure. This is when you are able to give a clear, strong message about something. This means you are eloquent.
I agree with you. Here we have an example. She was eloquent and managed to impress the audience. So if you are eloquent, generally you have the ability to impress the audience.
And it adds to your charisma.
Yes. So eloquent is an adjective, and in Georgian it is ჭერმეტყველი. Eloquent. ჭერმეტყველი. Let's say together.
Eloquent.
Let's move on, and the next word we have is appealing. Appealing is an adjective again, and in Georgian it is მიმზიდველი, მომხიბლავი. Mr. Daryl, can you help me with the definition again?
Sure, I'd love to. It's something that is attractive and interesting to someone.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that charismatic people are quite appealing, right? So, and here we have an example. He had a nice smile and appealing personality. If a personality is appealing, it means that a lot of people like this person, right?
And smiling doesn't hurt.
Yes. So appealing is an adjective, and in Georgian it means მიმზიდველი, მომხიბლავი. Appealing, მიმზიდველი, მომხიბლავი. So let's together. Appealing. Our next word is sociable. Sociable is an adjective, and in Georgian it means კონტაქტური, კომუნიკაბელური. And what is the definition of sociable?
Sociable, it's someone who likes to be friendly and to go out and meet people.
Yeah. For example, we have an example here. She's a very sociable child. It means that this child likes communicating with people. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. And I think it's also, again, useful in the world of business. And perhaps even if you're a teacher, you've got to be sociable.
Yeah, you really need to be sociable. So sociable is an adjective, and in Georgian it means კონტაქტური, კომუნიკაბელური. Sociable, კონტაქტური, კომუნიკაბელური. Together?
Sociable.
And our new word is reserved. Reserved is an adjective, and in Georgian it is თავშეკავებული, მორცხვი. We call shy people reserved people, so people who are unwilling to show their emotions and feelings. Am I right, Mr. Daryl?
Yes, you're right. And as in our example, the English are famously known for being a reserved people.
Yes, you're right. So they are really unwilling to show their feelings and emotions. So reserved is an adjective, and in Georgian it means თავშეკავებული, მორცხვი. Reserved, თავშეკავებული, მორცხვი. Let's say together, reserved. And the next word is assertive. Assertive is an adjective, and in Georgian it is თავდაჯერებული. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
Sure, I'd love to. Assertive is when a person is not afraid to show their thoughts and ideas out in public and always go for what they want and what they desire.
And they are quite confident.
Yeah, they're very confident.
Yes. And here we have an example. If you really want the promotion, you'll have to be a bit more assertive. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right.
It's the assertive ones that get higher in the social ladder.
Yeah, I agree with you. So assertive is an adjective, and in Georgian it is თავდაჯერებული. Assertive, თავდაჯერებული. Let's say together, assertive. And I think that we have finished with the first set of vocabulary, and it's time for practicing, right? Here we have sentences and gapped sentences, and we have to find the right words for the gaps. ახლა კი დროა გადავიდეთ ლექსიკურ დავალებაზე. მონიტორზე ხედავთ წინადადებას, ჩვენ უნდა შევარჩიოთ შესაბამისი სიტყვა მოცემული წინადადებისთვის. Okay, let's start. Let's try. So his arguments were very, and what do you think can go here?
I think it's persuasive.
Really?
Yep.
Yes, arguments, should be persuasive. I think. Let's check if you are right, and you are right. His arguments were very persuasive.
The reason for making an argument is to persuade someone. That's why you have to make them persuasive.
Well, now let's move on to the next sentence, and here we have being a, then we have blank space, person, Eva liked big parties. So if you like big parties, what kind of person are you generally?
Well, let me think now. Looking at the words we have on the screen, I would say you are a sociable person.
Maybe yes. Yes, you are right. Being a sociable person, Eva liked big parties. Usually sociable people like big parties, being out with friends, having fun.
Do you like big parties, Ms. Tatia?
By the way, I don't, and I think that I'm not quite sociable person.
Are you a bit reserved?
Maybe, yeah. Okay. Let's go on, and here we have a sentence. When required, he could be an, then we have a blank space, speaker, but prefer talking to small groups. So what do you think can go here?
Well, there's a few choices, but there's a big clue with the an. So the next word would have to be one that starts with a vowel.
Yes.
And so I would say eloquent?
Maybe yes, let's try. Yes, you are right. So eloquent people are very good at expressing their ideas clearly. So I think that this person had the skill of expressing ideas clearly, but only when required. Okay? Now let's move on. And the next sentence is, he was a, then blank space, type of a person who tried not to express his ideas and attitudes. And may I say the answer?
You may.
This is reserved, and we said that people who are unwilling to show their emotions, who are shy, are called reserved. So he was a reserved type of a person who tried not to express his ideas and attitudes. Okay, now let's move on. There are two words, one sentence, so we have a choice between these two. So his, then there is a blank space, personality made everyone fall in love with him. So if everyone falls in love with someone, that person must be
appealing.
Yes, absolutely right. We said that appealing people are people who are liked by many people, right? So his appealing personality made everyone fall in love with him. And we have one word left, and I think that the answer is clear, but we have to still try and say. He taught his children to be assertive, to stand up to the bullies, and this is very important. Yes, that's why.
Yeah, it seems to be an important topic to teach in our schools these days.
Yes, okay. So I think that we have finished with the exercise. So now let's move on to the next section, which is a reading section. მოდით კითხვის დავალებაზე გადავიდეთ. თუმცა ვიდრე უშუალოდ ტექსტს წავიკითხავდეთ, შევისწავლოთ ახალი სიტყვები, რომლებიც ტექსტის უკეთესად გაგებაში დაგვეხმარება. Okay. And the first word is facial expressions. So facial expression is a noun, and in Georgian it means სახის გამომეტყველება. And I need your help, Daryl.
Sure, I'd love to. Facial expressions are what you show in your face when you want to express what you're feeling. So what you feel comes out through your face.
Yes, and sometimes you even don't say a word, but your facial expressions can show what you feel and how you feel.
I think students are probably quite used to this with their teachers.
Yes.
They can tell when the teacher's angry
Yeah.
and when she's satisfied.
Yeah. Absolutely right. So facial expression is a noun, and in Georgian it means სახის გამომეტყველება. Facial expression, სახის გამომეტყველება. Let's say together.
Facial expression.
And our next word is inspire. Inspire is a verb, and in Georgian it means შთაგონება. And what about English definition?
When you inspire someone, you give them the ability to believe that they can do something. So it's a very positive word.
Absolutely right. And I think that teachers should inspire their students to learn, right? So inspire is a verb, and in Georgian it is შთაგონება. Inspire, შთაგონება. Let's say together.
Inspire.
And our next word is innate. Innate is an adjective, and in Georgian it is თანდაყოლილი ბუნებრივი. So what about English definition?
Sure. Innate is when you are born with something. It's not something you learn from outside. It comes from inside you, a skill or an ability or anything.
And we usually have different innate talents which we are born with, right?
Yes, and each of us finds success in different ways based on our innate talents.
Yeah, absolutely right. So innate is an adjective, and in Georgian it is თანდაყოლილი ბუნებრივი. Innate, თანდაყოლილი ბუნებრივი. Let's say together.
Innate.
And our new word is emotion. Emotion is a noun, and in Georgian it is ემოცია. Mr. Daryl, can you help me with the definition again?
Emotions are some strong feeling or distinct feeling, such as anger, sadness, and many, many others, that we express in our actions and words.
Yeah, we have lots of emotions, and we can show lots of emotions, and that's good. That's what we humans can do.
We're an emotional...
Yeah, so emotion is a noun, and in Georgian it is ემოცია. Emotion, ემოცია. And let's say together, emotion. And we can move on, and the next word is again an adjective, and it's insincere. Insincere, in Georgian it is არაგულწრფელი. Can you help me with the definition, Mr. Daryl?
Sure, I'd love to. Insincere is when you pretend to mean something that you don't really mean, and you're kind of giving off false images.
Yeah, and I think that it's very hard to communicate with insincere people, right?
It's hard to trust them.
Yeah, you can't. Okay. So insincere in Georgian means არაგულწრფელი. Insincere, არაგულწრფელი. Let's say it together.
Insincere.
And the next word is mimic. Mimic is a verb, and in Georgian it is გამეორება, იმიტირება. Can you say the English definition for this word, Mr. Daryl?
Sure. Mimic is when you copy someone, sometimes to be funny, or in fact to insult them.
Yeah.
So there's different ways, but basically you're copying someone, their actions or their words.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Mimic is a verb, and in Georgian it means გამეორება, იმიტირება. Mimic, გამეორება, იმიტირება. Let's say it together.
Mimic.
And I think that we have finished with the words, and it's time to move on to the reading. But before we read the text, I have a few questions to you, Mr. Daryl. Mr. Daryl, what are the most charismatic leaders in the world? What do you think? And what makes them charismatic?
Well, it's a big question. If we talk about history, I'd say someone like the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was very charismatic. They say he was charismatic because he inspired the British people to fight in World War II and eventually win. Yeah. And what made him charismatic? He was a great speaker. He was a great speech giver over the radio, and he would have been a great speech giver, I think, if there was TV in those days.
So we're going to read a text which is about charismatic people, and let's find out what kind of people they were. So many leaders throughout history, such as Gandhi, Churchill, Napoleon, Martin Luther King, seem to have a special quality that made them powerful and persuasive. We can identify that quality as charisma, but can we explain it?
Charisma is a complex mixture of social and emotional skills. These skills allow charismatic people to affect and influence others at a deep emotional level, to make strong personal connections, and to communicate effectively with others. Richard Wiseman, a prominent psychologist, points out that there are 3 key attributes of a charismatic person. 1, they feel their own emotions strongly. 2, they inspire strong emotions in other people. And 3, they are unaffected by the influences of other charismatic people. So if you were charismatic, you would not likely be influenced by others.
But you shouldn't worry if you don't have these qualities. Charisma used to be thought of as innate, but today there is growing evidence that it can be learned. People with an infectious personality influence others to copy their posture, body language, and facial expressions. Wiseman says that when you come upon someone who has charisma, you mimic his or her posture and facial expressions without realizing it. This is called mirroring, and it works because to some extent, people's behavior influences their emotions. Wiseman adds that you are unaware you are picking up the other person's gestures, but you know it makes you feel good. He cites the example of smiling back at someone who has smiled at you.
Charisma plays a large part in success because it is linked to self-confidence, but it is worth noting that although charisma can be learned, it can't be faked. One successful leadership coach points out that people pick up on that right away. You need to come by your skills and techniques naturally, she warns. If you don't behave naturally, you will come across as insincere.
Yeah, so interesting. Now we've learned a lot of things about charismatic people and how it works and how sometimes the feelings are infectious, right? Okay, now I think that it's time for the reading task. დროა კითხვის დავლებაზე გადავიდეთ. ეკრანზე გამოჩნდება წინადადებები. და ჩვენ უნდა განსაზღვროთ ეს წინადადებები შეესაბამება თუ არა ტექსტს. თუ წინადადება შეესაბამება ტექსტს, ანუ მართალია, მაშინ ვამბობთ true. თუ წინადადება არ შეესაბამება text, machine ვამბობთ false. Now let's get started. Look at the first statement and try to identify whether the statement is true or false. So, charismatic people are good at influencing others. What do you think? Is it true or false, Mr. Derek?
I think based on what we spoke about and read about just now, I would say that the answer is true.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I had the same opinion. It's true because we read. These skills allow charismatic people to affect and to influence others at a deep emotional level. And our next statement is the following.
Here it is. Charismatic people feel their emotions strongly. They inspire others and are affected by other charismatic people.
I think it's false because the sentence says that they are affected by other charismatic people, which shouldn't be true. So let's check. I think that this is false and I'm right. It's
Excellent.
False.
Well done.
Yeah. Here is the proof from the text. They feel their own emotions strongly. They inspire strong emotions in other people and they are unaffected by the influences of other charismatic people.
Well done.
Okay, now let's look at the next sentence.
Charisma is innate. It's a feature that can never be developed.
I think that this is false.
Let's check.
Here we are. Charisma used to be thought as innate, but today there is growing evidence that it can be learned. So this statement was false.
Excellent.
Now it's time for grammar. Now let's look at the sentences and let's analyze the sentences, okay? ეხლა კი დროა გრამატიკაზე გადავიდეთ. მოდით შევხედოთ წინადადებებს და გავაანალიზოთ. If you don't behave naturally, you will come across as insincere. If you were charismatic, you would be less likely to be influenced by others. Mr. Terrell, can you see that there is condition in these both sentences?
Yes, both of them seem to be conditionals. They're conditional upon a first idea and which frees up the second part of the sentence.
Yes, you are right. So today's grammar topic is conditionals, and now let's listen to Mr. Darryl.
Okay. We use different conditionals depending on whether we are talking about a real or imaginary situation. We use the present real conditional to talk about events that are likely to happen, and the present unreal conditional to talk about events that are unlikely to happen. There are different forms to follow. One form is the present real conditional. You have an if clause, and then you have the result clause. And in the if clause section, you would use the present simple, and in the result clause section, you would use the will or another modal verb. Here's an example. If you remain calm, you will or may find out how powerful you really are. Now, the present unreal conditional, you have similarly an if clause and a result clause, but this time in the if clause, you're using a past simple, and the result clause, you would use the words, the modal verbs would, might, or could. Here's the example. If she was a doctor, she would be a lot more stressed.
Okay, and Mr. Darryl, I think we have to do some exercises and practice using conditional sentences. So we have sentences with verbs in brackets and we have to put the verbs in the correct form. ეხლა კი გადავიდეთ გრამატიკულ დავალებაზე. მონიტორზე თქვენ ხედავთ წინადადებებს, მოცემულია ზმნები ფრჩხილებში, რომელიც სწორ ფორმაში უნდა ჩავსვათ. Let's try. So the first sentence we have is, if he, then we have a verb have, more charisma, he, then again a verb to be, more successful. So this person, it turns out that this person does not have any charisma. So this is unreal at present. So I think that we have to use second conditional here, right? So how would you say it in second conditional?
Well, Ms. Tatya, I would say the following. If he had more charisma, he would be more successful.
And you're absolutely right. You are good at grammar. If he had more charisma, he would or might or could be more successful. As we said, instead of would, we can use might and could. Now let's look at the next sentence.
I'll read it.
I'll have a try.
Yes.
So, no, you read and I'll have a try.
Exactly. If I, and the verb in brackets is know English, I, and the verb in brackets is continue my education abroad.
So, according to this sentence, I can assume that I don't know English. So this is a hypothetical, unreal situation at present. So again, I have to use second conditional.
Very good.
So for second conditional, in if clause, I use past simple, and in the second clause, I use would plus infinitive. So the sentence will be, if I knew English, I would continue my education abroad. And let me check if I'm right. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, absolutely right. So we can move on. And can I have a try again?
Sure. I see you're enjoying it very much,
Yes.
so I will let you.
Okay.
If I, and the verb in brackets is have, my own business, you got a comma now, I, and the verb in brackets is earn more money.
Yes, again. According to the sentence, I do not own my own business. So this is a hypothetical, unreal, unlikely situation. So again, I need to use second conditional. For second conditional, again, I need past simple in if clause and would plus infinitive in the second clause. So I would say the sentence like this. If I had my own business, I would earn more money.
Well done.
Yes, that's great.
You're natural.
Okay, now the next one. Now I will just read it. If I, then we have a verb work hard, I get promoted. Will you try?
This doesn't seem like an unreal condition. This would be the following. If I work hard, I will get promoted.
It's quite likely to happen, right? So that's why we have first conditional here,
conditional.
and you're absolutely right, Mr. Daryl. And I think the end of our lesson has come, and what we have to do is to summarize the lesson. Can you do it?
Yes. As you remember, we spoke about vocabulary attached to psychology and charisma in particular. We did a reading that was really fascinating, and we did our grammar on conditionals.
Yes, absolutely right. And now it's time for homework. What is the homework for today, Mr. Daryl?
The homework is the following question. Write a description of a charismatic person you know.
Oh, very interesting. And where can the homework be uploaded, Mr. Daryl?
The homework can be sent to the address you see on the screen, where you will also find our model answer.
გთხოვთ დავალება ეკრანზე მითითებულ მისამართზე გამოაგზავნოთ. Now it's time to finish the lesson for sure. We are looking forward to meeting you again very soon with more and more interesting topics.
Yes, and I believe our next topic will definitely be more on psychology.
Yes, absolutely right. So, goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.